This week's episode of the Today in Manufacturing podcast is brought to you by Sugar CRM. If your sales team is struggling to close deals, Sugar CRM can introduce you to modern, insight-driven sales. Energize your CRM with Sugar. Hi, I'm David Manti, and welcome to a new episode of the Today in Manufacturing podcast. With me this week are Jeff Ranke and Anna Wells. We each have more than 20 years of experience covering the manufacturing industry. Every week, we take the 5 most popular stories on our websites and discuss the implications they have on our industry going forward. But before we get started, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You could also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach any of us at Jeff, David, or Anna at IEN.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube at IEN Magazine so you can join us when we go live every Thursday. Jeff, welcome back.
Good to be here, man.
Yeah. I was sorry that you missed your chance to do the victory lap about the bare bones, like you get for 20 grand an EV truck, you get tires. And that's about it.
I did go on the site. It was actually pretty cool trying to put your truck together.
Yeah.
I couldn't get to a final amount because I didn't want to put in like my credit card to hold it or anything.
Yeah.
But I was impressed with that site as far as all the features you could add to it.
I know. I feel like almost everyone in the office had a good time, like putting theirs together and doing the same, just like, oh, not yet though. I'm not going to submit the $50. Yeah. Anna, how you doing this week?
Good. Yeah.
Good. All right. Well, before we get into our first story this week, we have another word from our sponsor, Sugar CRM. This week's episode is brought to you by Sugar CRM, featured as a leader in IDC's MarketScape, worldwide B2B CRM platform software for industrial manufacturing 2024 vendor assessment. Providing personalized and user-friendly experiences for B2B customers is critical for retaining lasting business relationships. However, doing this at scale can be difficult, but it doesn't have to be if you select the right CRM provider. This report reveals how CRM software vendors best serve industrial manufacturers and their customers. So download the IDC MarketScape 2024 CRM Platform Vendor Assessment right now. There is a link to it in the body copy as well as the live chat. All right, our first story this week. Body armor maker sued for mislabeling plates sold to law enforcement. Ohio's Attorney General has announced a new lawsuit against body armor manufacturer ShotStop Ballistic. According to a report from IEN's Nolan Beilstein, the company allegedly imported Chinese-made plates and labeled them as, quote, made in Ohio, making them compliant with the Department of Justice. The lawsuit says ShotStop, its Volmer Studios affiliate and owner Val Iliev, violated the Consumer Sales Practices Act. Reports of the scheme first surfaced in May 2024 when Homeland Security told the Akron Police Department that its SWAT officers were using counterfeit ballistic plates. ShotStop filed for bankruptcy about a week before that report came out. In February, the DOJ charged Iliev with smuggling the armor and selling it to law enforcement from around 2017 to October 2023, nearly 6 years. In May 2023, U.S. Customs agents stopped a Canadian-registered truck transporting more than 200 ballistic body armor plates in boxes from China. The agents found the boxes pre-labeled and addressed to Volmer Studios. Test results revealed that the plates did not meet the DOJ's standards for protection, even though they were marketed as such. Iliev allegedly collaborated with a Chinese broker company to find cheap manufacturers to make the body armor. He told employees to attach fake labels before selling the products, and the DOJ found that ShotStop's U.S. location had no means of producing thousands of these plates. While the lawsuit seeks restitution, further legal discovery might be necessary because of the bankruptcy and the fact that the federal government seized all of the company's records. Anna, for this one, it's hard to believe that any restitution or any sort of consequence is going to be, or any restitution of consequence will be returned to those that were kind of hit with this scandal.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. And I think restitution, of course, is appropriate, but I think it goes well beyond this concept of consumer losses, which is why I was glad to see this this lawsuit joined in with some of the charges that had come from the Department of Justice. But, what bothered me the most is that specifically this is a product that's designed to be life-saving, right?
Mhm.
So it's not just you bought a counterfeit baseball cap. Like the egregious nature of designing a product, or I'm sorry, selling a product with fake labels and fake regulatory measures, even though there were no negative outcomes that were reported, that is horrifying. You know what I mean?
It's not a purse.
It's not. I mean, people trust you. It just makes it, exponentially worse, in my opinion, to be doing that. So I hope that in the end, there are some serious and severe consequences for this individual, because this guy really went all out.
Yeah.
So my understanding is that the company itself previously held some regulatory designations for its products, and then at some point in time changed suppliers and did not follow up in terms of getting the new supply recognized. And clearly they knew that if they were applying these fake labels. Also, some of the labels included fictitious patent pending, level 3+ and level 4+ HD certified, which are non-existent designations. That was also reported about this case.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously this person was like very willfully selling products that he knew were out of compliance and making up regulations. And it was like out of control.
He's not a victim. He's a bad actor.
Right. Exactly. 100%. To take what originally was he was charged with, which was basically smuggling, right, back in February, to see this lawsuit come into the mix too and demand some further accountability for this person, I think is really important. As Attorney General of Ohio, Dave Yost, said, armor is meant to save lives. Armor is meant to save lives, not sell lies.
Oh, man.
Whoa.
He got him with a stinger.
I know, a stinger. And the other thing that bothered me too is I kind of felt for the employees here, because I do, because I don't know that the people that you're hiring to apply labels to things kind of know the whole chain of custody of your products and what you're.
I will agree with you on that. Where if you're thinking of just standard assembly line, there have been plenty of times you've put labels on a bag or some piece of some product, and it's just your job to put the label on. You don't know what's on the label or that you're creating. I mean, it's one thing if they're they're maybe scratching a label off with a razor blade or something and then replacing it, maybe. But I do agree with you there.
I highly doubt that he was like, these are false labels in our lies. We
Could
don't
you
do
help
any
me
of those.
commit crimes?
Please put these on. I don't think the people that are doing that work are involved in the paperwork side of the business or the testing side of the business. They're just there to put on labels, right?
Yeah.
So to look back and be like, that's also just another kind of side piece of nonsense to this entire story.
Well, and Jeff, I understand that this is all chasing profitability, right? Make it cheaper, higher margins. And before you go blaming the line workers for their culpability in this, this one has to hit pretty close to home for you as a person who has worn life-saving armor.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to blame the workers there, but I think we're being naive to think that no one had a clue, something isn't right here. I think there's no way everybody was just this seems right. Everything seems culpable here. This guy seems like a real outstanding individual here who would never stretch the truth and make us put a false label on something, specifically saying that it's made in Stowe, Ohio.
So you're saying...
No. There is signage and marketing all over the place for this company through their distributors, their site, their LinkedIn page. We manufacture these products in Ohio. If you're at this facility, there is no doubt in your mind that you do not make anything at this facility. All you're doing is putting it in a box.
But they were very careful about that wording, that they did not have the manufacturing capacity to make that many. So the way I read that is that maybe they could make some, but they couldn't make thousands.
When you say we manufacture this and it's made in Stowe, Ohio, and then there is no manufacturing capability there at all, other than a laser printer in the back for printing up these labels, Somebody had an idea.
Well, okay, so you're saying that someone should have been a whistleblower and stepped up?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, okay. Now that all those employees that were living paycheck to paycheck just to support their families,
we're talking
understand
about
their responsibility.
10 people at the most.
Okay, but like, let's focus on Ilya, who's truly the bad actor,
a horrible
here.
individual.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at this, is this sort of penalty? Like, can enough be done to this individual to stop people from doing similar things going forward?
Here's the problem. We've had these cases. You can Google it. You can find a bunch of them. The ones that stood out to me, there was a guy in Washington who basically did this exact same thing, not only with the vests and the plates, but also with helmets.
Yeah.
Definitely didn't meet anywhere close to the certifications they were supposed to in terms of round stoppage or individual protection. He got a year and a day in jail. There's another individual in Texas that did the exact same thing. He got 33 months in jail. That's because these charges are for smuggling, they're for misrepresentation, they're lying to government agencies. What they need to be is for basically attempted murder.
Yeah.
That is what they're doing here. A 7.62 round, do you know what that is? That's basically, that's almost the size of my hand. Well, base of my hand to the top of my finger.
Yeah.
That is a 7.62 round. So when you're saying you can stop something that size and you're not even close, that is terrifying.
Yeah, it's like
this individual should not be. There's got to be, again, some sort of sociopathic nature to an individual, and he didn't do this to like get by for a little bit. He did it repeatedly over the course of 6 years?
Yeah.
Okay, constantly lying to people who are putting their lives on the line to protect you. There is not a hole deep enough to throw this guy into, and that's what needs to happen. And right now, that's really scary to give like the DOJ more breadth and more ability and more scope right now. But we need to do something, because otherwise these things are going to continue to pop up. It's too easy to fake. It's too easy to lie about. The other part I will say, though, because all this is going on, folks, we got to do our homework. Okay? You have to look into these. And it's not just the law enforcement agencies that are buying. There are plenty of people who are very happy to be distributors and resellers for these products as well.
Yeah, some of the websites are still up.
I saw the one. Yeah, take down those pages, guys.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that needs to go on in the marketplace as well to help insulate us from all these bad actors.
Well, and it is, first of all, it is incredible with how many of these that were in the marketplace. No one was injured that's on record yet. And how this kind of came to be, where Homeland Security told the Akron Police Department that its SWAT officers could be using counterfeit products because at least 56 customers filed warranty claims against ShotStop in the Chapter 7 liquidation proceedings. I mean, 57 different law enforcement agencies. Each is trying to recover funds spent on these faulty ballistic plates. I mean, talk about the fallout. I mean, every one of these communities is dealing with extreme budgetary concerns, right? Akron had to approve $60,000 to replace compromised body armor for the SWAT team. It's going to require 40 new sets of ballistic plates, each costing about $1,300. And that's just one of the 56 customers. You know, that's I feel like the fallout from this one is still coming.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, Jeff, to your point, they can't dig a hole deep enough. All right. Now, our next most popular story. Cleveland Cliffs to idle 3 steel plants in Pennsylvania and Illinois. Cleveland Cliffs is going to idle 3 steel plants indefinitely. The shutdown will start around June 30th, and about 950 workers will be out of work. The company says it is facing, quote, insufficient demand and pricing for items like high-carbon steel sheets. Cleveland Cliffs previously announced plans to idle or partially idle 2 iron ore mines in Minnesota, affecting 630 workers. A steel plant in Dearborn, Michigan was also shut down due to, quote, weak automotive production in the U.S., affecting another 600 workers. On the bright side, the company still hopes to resume operation at its blast furnace in Cleveland that it idled last year. Cleveland Cliffs insists that the closures have nothing to do with President Donald Trump's tariffs. The company said, quote, we believe that once President Trump's policies take full effect and automotive production is reshored, we should be able to resume steel production at Dearborn. Anna, how long will Cleveland Cliffs have to, you know, make sure that automotive production can be restored? Like, I mean, when I read it, it seemed like it was very specific with those 2 quotes that once the policies take full effect and once automotive production is reshored, they will resume steel production. I don't know. Do you feel like they're saying that in good faith?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting situation. I think as we watch it evolve, I have more and more concerns. Obviously, we covered Cleveland-Cliffs' previous round of layoffs a few weeks back. Company leaders are taking the same tone with this one, which is that this is all temporary. The impacts that are affecting us now will be blunted by reshoring activity in automotive, which is our core market. Okay, but if this is the outcome, how long will it take to get there?
Yeah.
That's the concern I have, because Cleveland-Cliffs believes it will find itself on the upside of steel duties and other tariffs, especially those related to automotive. But I do think it's fair to expect, and we've discussed this before, obviously, that if dramatic operational and supply chain changes are taking place, that's a bit of a slog. It's a very protracted process.
Yeah.
To me, another thing that feels clear is that they seem to be wanting to be on the right side of the Trump administration. That's the feeling I get from the commentary we're hearing.
Oh yeah.
Because otherwise, I don't see the optimism. I don't get it.
These are not shutdowns and closures. This is an indefinite idle. It's
right,
an idle.
Right. This is us just like, I don't know, holding tight while we wait for things to play out. Things are not going well now for this company. Like, Cliffs released their earnings after the story was published. They missed badly. Their stock has plummeted. They have also announced that they were not going to pursue development of a transformer plant in West Virginia that they had already planned on doing as they continue to cut costs. So to me, this does not feel like a company on the cusp of great things. And that's the way their leader is portraying the situation. Like, we'll just hang tight. We're going to completely decimate this company while we wait, is what it feels like.
Yeah.
But, once this gets all figured out, we're going to be in a good place. Like, how much time do you think you have? I don't know.
I mean, the company posted the Q1 loss was nearly $500 million. And Jeff, to Anna's point, it does seem a little bit of a stretch to just have this be part of a hunker down strategy.
Yeah, he definitely has the feeling of like Kevin Bacon in Animal House, all is well, as everybody just trampedes through downtown. There's a couple different things going on here. First of all, we know Cleveland-Cliffs not to continue to pile on. They weren't profitable last year. They weren't profitable the year before. It's been a bit since this company has shown some positive revenues here, some profitability. So one of the things that they keep talking about, again, is the automotive, and they keep talking about flat-rolled steel production, okay, synonymous with automotive. They are the largest in the U.S. Guess who the second largest is? U.S. Steel. Neither company is doing great right now, right? Guess what company is doing pretty well as far as a U.S. steelmaker goes? Nucor. Number 15 in the world, number 1 in the U.S., made about $2 billion last year. The reason being, their core focus is not automotive. Yeah. They've expanded and diversified into different markets. If you go back to 2007, 2008, 2009, when we were covering job shops in a lot of metalworking industries, what were they doing? I hate to use this word all the time. They were pivoting away from automotive to get into medical, to get into aerospace, to get into different markets. Cleveland-Cliffs and U.S. Steel have not done that, and there's a reason why they're in so much financial trouble. There's a reason why U.S. Steel wants to sell to Nippon. Again, a company that when you look at what they do, very diverse. Not that they ignore automotive in any way, shape, or form, but they're focused on the construction industry. They're focused on metal for machinery and things of that nature. There's a lot of different ways you can use steel, folks, is my point being. And when you look at the automotive industry specifically, now sure, if things play out, let's be optimistic and say all of this automotive reshoring will eventually find its way back to the U.S. There has been about a 25-30% reduction in the amount of steel used in the average vehicle since 1970. Now, that's a very gradual shift, but guess what? It's not going up.
Yeah.
Now, you may win the volume game in terms of more vehicles being made, but per vehicle, we're not using more steel. Yeah. In the next 10 years, that's supposed to go down by another 10%, and we don't want heavier vehicles anymore. So it's not like the automotive sector is a growth market to begin with. honestly, what Cleveland-Cliffs probably needs to do is unpopular and just hard to even imagine is they probably need to make deeper cuts and start diversifying their business if they actually want to be around for a while to realize some of that reshoring that might take place in 2 years.
Yeah, I mean,
they're set up to fail right now.
Well, did you find it surprising then that Chief Executive Lourenco Goncalves, said that this is all part of cutting non-core assets? It sounds like they're trimming everything but automotive.
That's what got me too, because when you look at it now, I don't know rail, okay? I'm not sure how much growth there is there. When you talk about specialty plate and high carbon sheet, high carbon, you're looking at hardware. So that would seem like a pretty good market to get into. You're looking at knives, you're looking at saw blades, you're looking at a lot of consumable products that people need to replenish on a regular basis. I wouldn't cut that one. Like if you're struggling in automotive and you've got a consumable product option as well, that's where I might look to grow, especially when you're seeing all these changes in automotive right now. So yeah, I think Cleveland-Cliffs is a bit, I don't know if the right word is hopelessly optimistic or just delusional.
Yeah.
But for them to be so dependent on all this going on the automotive side to save their business, I'd be worried.
No, Doug Hatch is with us again live this week. It's good to hear from you, Doug. He says the Nucor plant in West Virginia is ready to come online. Anna, how much can Cleveland-Cliffs cut and still just be kind of in a holding pattern? You know, can you just be like, no, everything's shut down, but once everything comes online, we just flip a switch and we're back in business?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, when you're a publicly traded company, that rope is shorter than you think.
Yeah. All right. Our next most popular story this week. Will this car maker's secret stockpile save it from tariffs? The automotive supply chain is in flux. I suppose that's the nice way to put it. But one EV brand may have had the foresight to get ahead of the drama. CarScoops recently reported that Rivian has built a, quote, secret stockpile of key components, and it started before the 2024 election. This, quote, refreshingly proactive strategy has Rivian sitting on a pile of batteries. Bloomberg says Rivian has accumulated a stash of lithium iron phosphate batteries from a Chinese supplier. They are destined for Amazon delivery vans. Rivian has also leveraged a relationship with Samsung SDI to import, quote, a sizable batch of battery cells from South Korea, which it needs to keep production on track for its new pickup and SUV. Just 2 weeks ago, Samsung SDI said a tariff war would make it more expensive to make EVs. So, if anything, Rivian has a little more breathing room before it has to raise prices. Anna, did Rivian kind of thread the needle perfectly here, like coming after the COVID supply chain drama and kind of getting in just before the tariff madness?
I mean, they actually might have. Since we reported on this secret stockpile, Rivian reported its earnings, and they have, of course, some concerns about what's upcoming, despite their second consecutive quarter of profitability, which is meaningful, to be sure, for an EV startup. I think we can all agree on that. The company has slashed its forecast by as much as 13%, but CarScoop says that its secret stockpile might actually help it move forward into 2025. So Rivian is blaming a shifting global environment for its forecast change, like many other automakers making forecast changes.
Yeah, like the, quote, evolving trade regulations.
Yes. But I do think that they might be considered better positioned than some of their peers. They manufacture in the U.S. already. They have a lot of U.S. parts in their vehicles, or parts that are like USMCA compliant. But I think the uncertainty here has still caused the company to revise down a bit. But CarScoop says that the stockpile of batteries is, quote, an ace up Rivian's sleeve, and that could serve as a buffer against the pricing pressures triggered by these auto tariffs. And you can certainly see how other automakers might be envious of that type of foresight at this point in time, which was not just a prediction, but also, I think, a dedicated strategic inventory cost, which was the equivalent of kind of rolling the dice and winning, in my opinion. This carried some risk with it, but it had a strong strategic reward in the end. So I think the other thing that's helping Rivian now is that with its second consecutive quarter of profitability, it basically unlocked another $1 billion from Volkswagen as part of this staggered deal that they had made for Volkswagen to invest almost $6 billion in Rivian over the course of time. So that money comes at the end of June. That will help Rivian continue to fund its production goals for the year, and to know that it has this stockpile of batteries as well. I think we're seeing some real strength from Rivian. And I think this supports, at least I think we were in agreement as a panel in previous discussions around Rivian, that they might actually be one of the EV startups that makes it.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see why, right?
Yeah. That's a heck of an incentive, right? Just to be profitable another quarter, to get another $1 billion. Like, you do everything you can for that. And I mean, that also, they still came out and said that they expect to deliver, 5,000 less cars this year. Mm-hmm. But they have a lot of things that they can, that are kind of working in their favor. Jeff, I feel like we were just far enough away from COVID in terms of the argument for, having a little bit more stock in the warehouse and then switching back to that just-in-time manufacturing. And, I think that Rivian makes another case for, having product on the shelves.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like you said, after the pandemic, everybody switched over to that just-in-time model for inventory management. I mean, is this going to be sort of a shift more back to a just-in-case perspective? Mm-hmm. And I think they did benefit from the fact that they had more working capital than a lot of manufacturers would right now.
Yeah.
Just with the things that they've done in terms of pausing or scaling manufacturing a little bit. Obviously, the help from VW comes into play too. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here if there's these windows that manufacturers are sort of trying to play with or play against and bet against a little bit. And how that's going to impact supply chain as a whole, because I think supply chain is still a mess. Things have not gotten stable.
Yeah.
I mean, for a while. So then you throw in tariffs and everything gets even more crazy. But when you look at the instability that was there already, suppliers were at least getting used to a little bit of the known instability and the just-in-time models that manufacturers were trying to follow. Mm-hmm. If they revert back to trying to implement some of these just-in-case approaches, that's really going to throw a lot of instability and just madness into supply chain as well, because then how do you really manage this huge fluctuation or these huge swings in demand for components? It's not even the finished product. So how that affects things then again down the line, it's going to be very interesting to watch. If this becomes a pattern, if this becomes a best practice, if you will, to really pay attention to these things, where in the past it was more about material costs as opposed to tariffs. Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Well, and what have we heard from the past month or however long the tariff drama trade war has been going on has been how many people have been essentially panic buying, stocking warehouse shelves because they don't know what's coming next.
Yeah.
So there's got to be a lot of just in case out there right now.
Oh, I'm sure there is. And I'm not sure that there was ever a discernible gap between post-pandemic and now.
Yeah. No, I think it created the argument.
Behavior back. I mean, it took a lot of companies a lot longer than they thought to burn through some of the excess inventory that they had acquired during that time. Mm-hmm. I agree. I think you're seeing it happen again. And it's a big cost burden for companies to sit on a bunch of inventory. It's very hard to predict how much you need. Yeah. And so it will be a challenge.
Well, and to Doug's points, they are kind of sitting on a pretty healthy contract from Amazon. So when you have a partner like that, you can feel maybe a little bit more secure having a little extra on the shelves.
It does. I think it does help. Yeah.
All right. Our next most popular story this week, Volonaut Airbike takes to the sky for the first time. Volonaut just came out of stealth mode, and it says it has achieved a breakthrough in personal air mobility with the company's new flying motorcycle, the Airbike. They call it the, quote, superbike for the skies, and it's the latest project from Polish inventor Tomasz Patan. That's the guy behind the Jetson 1 flying motorcycle as well. It's kind of his thing. Powered by jet propulsion, it is designed to carry one person up to 124 miles per hour. The Airbike has a proprietary stabilization system that uses a flight computer to provide automatic hover and just make it easier to control. The Airbike is, let's say, an open concept flying motorcycle that can provide 360-degree views. The design is extremely compact, and it doesn't have any spinning propellers, so it can fit into tighter spaces. The Airbike is also 7 times lighter than the average motorcycle due to a design that employs advanced carbon fiber materials, 3D printing, and an overall minimalistic design. Anna, I understand that there might be a bit of cringe when you see a flying motorcycle like this. But all right, let's not talk about how it has potential in a consumer market. When it comes to emergency response or professional flying motorcyclists, this is a cool, potentially, very captivating design.
You're not going to drag me in with emergency response.
Just think about it. When people have an accident off a cliff into trees, and the only way in
is to
the
kill
Airbike.
another person.
Where do you put them?
Huh?
Where do you put the individuals that you're saving?
You just drop a hook
Drop a hook.
in, and then they grab it, and then just
sure.
up, and then zip home, and
Sure.
yeah. I don't know all the logistics. I just know it's there and it's gonna work.
You know what, David? You know what comes with a completely unobstructed view? That you can also die unobstructed. You just fall right out of it.
I think it's just a
You see
limited
exactly
crumple
what you're
zone.
gonna hit.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so you know not to hit it.
This is a vanity project, of course. So this Tomas Patan, I feel like he's designed something that is personally appealing to him.
Mm-hmm. It's like the guy that made the jetpack.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And while I don't doubt that there's probably lots and lots of thrill seekers who would line up to try this thing out,
Yeah.
I just don't see the real life application because I just don't think that it could get regulatory approval for really anything. That lack of a cage, it's not like they're going to let people just fly around on top of the interstate with that thing, or even like as a thrilling leisure activity, like the insurance race. I don't see it working. I did think that some of the components were interesting though, in terms of like what they might mean for, we've seen like eVTOLs, they have a lot of problems with their designs in terms of like how those propellers create so much dust and like gale force winds and so they're saying like that's almost like a barrier that makes those not workable at this point in time, especially in a congested area. But this thing, being able to operate without having a propeller, maybe they could figure out how to use that somewhere else.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's the best I can do here, David. I just don't. Otherwise it just looks like a death trap that it's cool. See, I guess
but I think if you didn't have the legacy of just modern motorcycles, you would, if someone invented the motorcycle today, you would look at it and be like, oh, that's a death trap. And yet that's
I do look at it as a death trap.
I understand that, but I'm just saying that there is a potential for this to receive some sort of regulatory approval.
He has no plans of making this commercially.
I don't.
But this is like Jeff. This is the thing that leads to the thing.
Well, we can get there, but that's not what you're saying.
No, I'm saying that long term, I do see that there could be a market for this to be used by first responders, by people who want to use this for a commute as they would want a motorcycle.
Not without a cage.
I think so, because the same. You could say the same thing about driving. Every argument that you could make for riding a motorcycle, you could make for flying this thing to work.
Yeah, but this, like, if you're in the air, you become a projectile as soon as you leave this bike. Like,
on the road.
I don't want to be underneath that. Like, I mean,
again, it's the same argument for a motorcycle. Like, you become a projectile. Like, and it's grim. I understand that, but
okay, but like, don't you think somebody falling out of the sky onto your vehicle has a worse impact than you like on a motorcycle? You hit the gravel.
No,
you don't?
No, it's a little different. And again, I'm not.
It is different. Yeah.
I'm not. No, I think that if a motorcyclist has an accident and it hits your car from the side, it is the same severity as someone hitting it from above.
Nope. That is not
scientifically
the accurate.
Would lie with that.
No, okay, let's not talk about the harrowing and grim nature of motorcycle accidents. But
You're talking about motorcycles. I'm talking about this flying bike
yeah,
that I do not want flying around me or above me.
David is saying this is going to lead to something good or something better, but right now what we've got could also be good.
I mean, Jeff, there's no way that you look at this video and you don't think that this is a cool design that has some sort of applicability.
Okay, this design, no. However, if we can get to a point where it's like the Return of the Jedi type of speeder bike type thing where it actually has some beef to it, yeah, we can maybe have a conversation there for applications that are not for going to work each day. Okay. So as far as the thing that leads to the thing, 100%. When I look at the way that this was made with the carbon fiber parts and the 3D printing, that's the part that excites me because look at how far we've come with drones. When we were first looking at drones, we weren't looking at things that can go up, get you pictures, help in those first responder, critical infrastructure fails, natural disaster type situations, okay? And that's where something like this, I agree with you, probably has its best applications along with military and defense. But as is, there's a long ways to go. I mean, it says it can go 124 miles an hour. Do you think it goes 124 miles an hour with me on there?
No.
I don't think I could sit on this thing.
That's your prerogative.
No, I don't think I could sit on this thing.
It was a very carefully curated selection of videos, and he's certainly not going 124 in those videos. But I do think, and it's like any prototype, right? I'm not saying like we should start selling the prototype.
But you kind of were.
No, I'm saying that this would be a cool product that people would use. Like once it was refined and like made into a commercial product.
So made into a completely different product.
No, not a completely different product. Not at all. I'm saying that as it is, if it went through further development, people would ride and fly this thing and love it.
I know that they would,
yeah.
But I don't think it ever gets approved for anyone to use as is. I mean,
yeah, I think it's an interesting first step. Yes, I would. I don't know how high in the air I would go on this thing, but yeah, it's a cool concept. Absolutely, long ways to go, but there is some stuff to build on here. I would agree.
Well, in talking about the jetpack, it made me think of that because the incredible amount of body control that it would take to keep this thing steady, seemingly with how rigid they are flying it, looks like that might be an issue.
Oh, like you have to have a core.
Like, yeah. Well, I mean, they said, with those
Did
jetpacks.
You doing some planks before you?
Yeah, like the person, I can't remember his name, who invented the jetpacks. I mean, he's like an extreme CrossFitter that you need that sort of body control in order to be able to keep it in the air. And obviously this, Jeff, you had mentioned Star Wars, but this is just so clearly inspired by that. And they just really leaned into the celebrating the May the 4th with an Imperial Scout Trooper was flying this thing. They said, quote, getting ready to unveil the world's first real world speeder bike, Airbike transforming science fiction into reality. So it's just, we're in the middle point. All right. The speeder bike came out, the 70s. So we're halfway home.
Return of the Jedi?
Yeah. When was that?
Early 80s.
Sorry. My bad.
You're off by a decade, man.
I was close. Late 70s, early 80s. It's the same.
Not.
Called out 4437 says, pretty awesome, but Arizona in the summertime with no AC? Heck no. Wintertime, a little too chilly. Would be nice if he came up with an enclosed version. At the moment, Lesney Patrol says, at the moment, maximum 14 to 15 minutes of flight. Current energy density, fuel, or battery is too low to keep it above the ground longer. And then Johnny Walker just says, looks fake. Sigma agrees, thinking that it's AI. Other people want to know, how loud is it? Probably illegally loud in most residential areas.
Good point.
That's why they just came out of stealth. All right, they came out of stealth to learn how to
David's
put it into
got stock
stealth.
in this thing, so he's going to defend it to the death.
That comment was from Andy's Poo too.
I missed that one too.
Oh, okay.
I believe it's Andy Spoo.
I don't know. I think it's Andy's Poo.
No, I think it's Andy Spoo too. Some of the cream of the crop in this bunch. All right, our next most popular story this week. Is this the most popular story? It is. All right. VW's electric bus recalled for too much seating room. A new recall, first spotted by Electric and reported by IEN's Ben Munson, says VW's ID Buzz is giving third-row passengers too much space. The vehicle was designed to have 2 spots in the back row on a bench seat. So VW installed 2 seat belts. However, the NHTSA said the calculated seating surface width of the third row rear bench exceeds the maximum value allowed by federal motor vehicle safety standards. In other words, it's too easy to squeeze in a hypothetical third person that wouldn't have a seatbelt. As a result, VW is going to install unpadded trim components to limit the width of the seating surface. We don't know what this new piece of trim is going to look like, but it will eventually go into more than 5,600 affected vehicles that are still within the new vehicle limited warranty period. Despite several design awards, sales for the ID Buzz have been slow. Anna, when you look at this, VW just moved over 3,000 units in the fourth quarter and the first quarter combined. Do you think that this is a regulatory oversight by VW? Is this an oversight by VW or regulatory nitpicking?
I don't know. I mean, I do think kind of nitpicking. It's a strange recall, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. You got too much seat in there.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and I'm not typically one to second guess a regulatory flag for what is supposedly a safety issue.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess without seeing it, I'm trying to assume, I guess, that the issue here is maybe too much room between the seatbelt connectors.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they're not actually narrowing the seat space at this point. They're just narrowing that like slush zone that's in the middle.
Yeah.
Or putting a new piece of not comfortable
Put a cup holder in there.
Yeah,
just,
cup holder or something.
They're throwing a hunk of plastic in it to fix the problem.
I don't know. I think you could make the argument that any sizable vehicle, like could you fit a child or a small adult on the floor of a Chevy Tahoe or in the back of a wagon? Yes, of course you could. But at some point, I think we need to release the automaker from the obligation to protect a person who is willingly sitting in something that's not a seat and doesn't have a seatbelt.
Yeah.
I will say that this story probably generated some buzz for the buzz.
It's right there.
I know. And to be honest, I think it's actually been positive because people have been looking at photos of this new vehicle and probably looking at interior photos. And people are talking about like how silly it is that it's being recalled for being too comfortable. Like it's all very honestly positive.
Yeah.
Viral marketing about how roomy this vehicle is.
Yeah.
So maybe that helps VW sell a couple more. I don't know. Most recall announcements don't give you that. Usually it's some negative press. I feel like this actually went the other way. So I don't know. At least maybe VW's getting something out of this very like weird, disruptive, and expensive debacle.
No, we. I mean, I don't know how expensive it is going to be. I mean, they're going to mold 5,600 parts of something that they're going to install, sign a card, check a box, and then likely have taken out immediately.
I feel like it's going to have like a Velcro strap on it. You can just like rip it off.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to do, right?
But it's expensive to pay to have that work.
Definitely.
I mean, every recall, no matter what, is expensive.
It is going to be expensive. Like, luckily they haven't sold that many. But
That's
I mean,
true, yeah.
You're right though, that I saw the same thing, overwhelmingly positive feedback. And I think from a lot of people that never would have looked at an ID Buzz.
Right.
They looked at it because they're like, this is ridiculous. And then they're like, oh, you know what? I could actually use this.
Yeah, it actually looks pretty nice inside.
And one of the things that stood out to me, Jeff, is it just, when you look at it, to me, it just looked like these were two seats built for bigger people. In a world of belt extenders and surcharges.
In a world.
And surcharges for using the second seat next to you. A little bit more room for a human. It's just unfortunate that it became like a seating compliance issue.
Well, and it's interesting because I think we've danced around it, but it's really not a safety issue, right? It's more of an accountability issue here. And I think this is basically NHTSA basically covering for VW and VW complying to cover for NHTSA, because nobody wants to be the one who gets a finger pointed at when somebody does squeeze in there, they're not belted in and something bad happens.
Yeah.
So that's really what this becomes about, unfortunately, as opposed to just providing a perk, if you will, and sitting in the back. It was kind of interesting. I did some research and stuff, because we always talked about before, like design for safety, that is a real thing.
Oh, yeah.
And some of the different rules that are up there. So you guys let me know what you think about these. So one of the rules is to eliminate the foreseeable danger whenever possible by designing the danger out of the product. Not really an option here. You can't really design danger out of a vehicle.
It's inherently dangerous.
If it is not possible to design danger out of the product, guard the user against it. So it's kind of the approach they're taking here. But I would say the third approach probably would have been the better one, even though it doesn't provide as much, accountability. When it is not possible to either design the danger out or guard against it, give warnings and instructions so the product can be used safely.
Yeah.
Ideally, that's where we would go with this, right?
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that's not where we live.
Yeah,
So.
why does it have to be a piece of trim? Can't they like slap a sticker on there that just says no butts here?
Not a seat.
Yeah.
You would hope.
Yeah. But it's
Again, that is not where we live.
I mean, being on both sides of it though, like I get now where you're overly safe as a parent, and I totally understand when you're younger and you're just like, I got enough room, and you're like sitting on the floor between two people's feet, and you're just like, just don't get in an accident. Real simple.
But if that's the mindset of the people in that vehicle, they're going to find a way. I mean, it's a van.
Oh yeah,
there's plenty of places to put people.
Yeah, that's still a premium spot. You've got at least 8 to 9 people you can get on the floor.
For sure.
No, I thought it was just very odd. And you know what, to the point you were making earlier, Anna, I looked at the inside of an ID Buzz for the first time, or like one of the first times too. And I was just like, they really did a good job of taking the legacy they were building upon with the VW bus and like updating it, but not taking too much away from the spirit of it. And I don't know that the VW bus was like a huge seller back in the day either, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, but was it like, I mean, it's iconic, right? But like, I just didn't know if the sales were there. Like, I mean, this is an iconic design and it clearly has, a consumer base.
Back in the 60s or the 70s or the early 80s, I think a lot of them were sold.
Yeah. Yeah. Back in the 70s or early 80s, or maybe even the 60s.
I mean, it's the basic same time period.
It's pretty much the same time period. Yeah. Anything that's played on oldies radio, it was made in that time period. All right. Before we jump into, in case you missed it, the stories that maybe weren't as popular on the website, but still stand to make a big impact on the industry going forward, we have another word from our sponsor. This week's episode is brought to you by Sugar CRM, featured as a leader in IDC's MarketScape, worldwide B2B CRM platform software for industrial manufacturing 2024 vendor assessment. Providing personalized and user-friendly experiences for B2B customers is critical for retaining lasting business relationships. However, doing this at scale can be difficult, but doesn't have to be if you select the right CRM provider. This report reveals which CRM software vendors best serve industrial manufacturers and their customers. Download the IDC MarketScape 2024 CRM platform vendor assessment. Right now, there is a link in the body copy and in the live chat. Go check it out right now. And if I butchered that one too much, Eric, throw in the first version. Thank you. All right. In case you missed it, the stories that may not have been as popular on the website, but still stand to make a big impact on the industry going forward. I'll go first this week. I picked a story that was kind of an update on something that we've covered. I think it was almost a year ago now, but nope, just a couple of months. But it feels like years.
Feels like a year.
Yep. Feels like a year. Donald Trump taps L3 Harris to retrofit old 747 into new Air Force One. Back in February, nearly a year ago, President Donald Trump said Boeing's progress on the new Air Force One was taking too long, and he threatened to go another way. Well, he went another way and is now repurposing a used Qatari plane to become the new Air Force One. Last week, the Wall Street Journal reported that President Trump contracted L3 Harris to retrofit a Boeing 747 previously owned by the Qatari government. Boeing's delays are so bad that the president might not even fly in a new Air Force One by the end of his second term. It will be no small feat for the Florida-based defense contractor L3 Harris, which must overhaul this old bird and have it in the air by this fall. L3 Harris is already contracted by Boeing to perform work on the communication systems on the new Air Force One. At least one of Boeing's new aircraft was scheduled to be ready by last year. Now, according to the Wall Street Journal's report, Boeing said that new plane might not be delivered until 2035. Now, there was a lot going on in this story. One thing that I did like is I think that sometimes we look at the story and reinterpret it as a lack of patience or, wanting to get things your way. But then there's also looking at a story and realizing that it's been in development for 19 years and something's got to give, right? And I think as we talk about other potential players in this aerospace market that might be opening up depending on what's going on with Boeing, this is an opportunity for L3Harris to kind of, they're already on the map, but get more on the map when it comes to kind of a completely new thing, right? Like making an Air Force One out of a used product. And I don't know. I thought that I was really intrigued by this story. I was surprised that, the administration followed through on the threats and just said, no, we're making our own. We're going for it. And there was, it's kind of not a great look for Boeing, but hey, at least they're using an old 747. Still a Boeing product. But yeah, that was the reason I chose this story. Jeff, I don't know if you had a chance to check this out, but were you surprised that they wound up retrofitting an old one?
This one.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was kind of surprising, sourcing from a different government. I would think their timeline here, that was the big thing that stood out to me, is it feels delusional.
Yeah.
That's a lot to cram in and retrofit. You're pulling everything out and putting everything back in. It almost feels like that's easier if you're starting from scratch as opposed to retrofit. So plus you've got all the security concerns with everything going in, everybody who's working on it. And then once it's up and running, again, all of those security parameters that need to be met with all the digital technologies that are on board. So I think it's good to look at a different vendor. Boeing has dropped the ball way too many times here, so I can appreciate that. But tapping somebody and them being so eager to get this project to maybe setting up some unrealistic expectations, they're almost setting themselves up to look bad or to fail.
Yeah.
That would be my concern here.
I think security is of the utmost importance here in terms of it is another government's plane. Just being really careful because this is one that you can't get egg on your face. Or things could go really bad. But Anna, 19 years. Seriously.
Yeah. I know. It was taking too long.
Mm-hmm.
It was absurdly long, the time frame. But I agree with you guys. I think the concern is, of course, security. I think it's naive to think that we are immune just with our, we have some great capabilities and tech minds and people who will sweep this thing from top to bottom, but are we 100% sure that there's no surveillance risk or anything like that for all of the sensitive business that takes place on Air Force One? I don't love pulling a plane from another country.
Yeah.
I just don't. But
it's an incredible amount of hubris too to be like, hey, you're up. I need it by fall. We do have to understand that there's maybe not the type of foresight that goes into asking for those kinds of timelines. But also this was the same group of people that I think we struggled with repainting the plane because it would have exposed it on different types of surveillance systems. There's a reason why Air Force One looks like it does. Either way, I thought it was wild, and I'm eager to kind of follow this project because one way or the other, it's going to stay in the news because, President Trump is going to hold their feet to the fire until fall.
Well, now L3Harris, this is kind of the second very public project they've been involved with here in the last couple of weeks. They were picked there. They just expanded so they could be part of that Iron Dome type
the Golden
project.
Dome.
Dome, excuse me. So, maybe they've won some favor with the administration here.
It sounds like it. Anna, what's here in case you missed it this week?
I picked a story about Pratt and Whitney machinists going on strike. So about 3,000 labor union members went on strike early Monday of this week at jet engine maker Pratt & Whitney in Connecticut as negotiations over wages, retirement benefits, and job security broke down. This was the first strike since 2001, and it was approved by 77% of union members, so they're mad. Some workers said that they were concerned that the company may move jobs in manufacturing out of the state to its plants in Georgia. The company, which is a subsidiary of RTX Corporation, called its latest wage and retirement proposal competitive and said its workforce is among the most highly compensated in the region and industry. The strike comes as RTX faces a potential $850 million hit on profits this year because of tariffs imposed by the Trump administration. So Pratt & Pratt and Whitney has reportedly made an offer to the workers, which the union is calling spin. So that's where they're at. The Machinists union leaders also said that Pratt and Whitney will fail miserably to replace these workers. So I picked this story because, well, a couple of reasons, but one, it feels a little bit like a concerning time period to be playing hardball, especially when you look at some of the pressures that are on RTX in terms of, shortfalls that could come based on these tariffs. So I hope it works out well for the company and for the workers as well. But interestingly, too, to me, we saw a big uptick in strikes during the year 2023, and we covered those, I think, extensively on the podcast. That figure fell by 43% in 2024, I think perhaps commensurate with workers feeling a little bit less secure in where they were. We'll see what 2025 brings with all of this uncertainty kind of clouding over everything. My guess is fewer strikes still in 2025, like maybe, fewer than in 24 as well. But that's why I wanted to call attention to this one, because it's a big number of folks. And it seems like it's starting off already a little bit contentious. So I'll be curious to see how this one plays out.
Yeah, we're talking about a category of employees that is already hard to find. So it is not like you can just pick up and move, in my opinion. Jeff, when you look at the strike at Pratt and Whitney, what are some of your first thoughts?
This is going to be interesting. And I do think that this could get bitter. This could get really harsh. And I think it's going to be interesting because the workers, I think, are in a good position in terms of what they want and their timing for it, because the last thing that RTX wants right now is to deal with the strike, and they want to they want to take advantage of some of the things that are going on in aviation right now in terms of, got a lot of shells of planes sitting out there that need engines. So they want to leverage that. There's a lot of things going on at Boeing where they want to be ready to react. And not that Boeing's killing it, not that they're a competitor of Boeing, but again, they want to be ready to go. The other thing that it sort of that it's going against is the dynamic of this whole tariffs, with RTX basically saying the reason we can't pay these folks is we're waiting on the tariff fees to come in, and we have to pass those along, and we can't afford to pay people more. That puts, Trump has been very good in sort of getting the favor of the unions here. And I don't know. That's a very interesting dynamic. You could see different pressures being applied. Number one, the administration doesn't want them to be talking about tariffs in a negative fashion.
Yeah.
They don't want to lose those folks in terms of their voter base. A lot of interesting stuff here, but I think the workers are digging in. So this could last a while.
The administration doesn't want you listing the Amazon's tariff surcharge at all. So I'm certain they don't want you throwing around a near $1 billion number related to that as well, especially when it comes to defense. But maybe they do. It's really hard to guess. Jeff, what's your in case you missed it this week?
So I picked a cybersecurity story here. This was basically, and I thought this one was unique because it's CISA warns of unsophisticated cyber actions targeting the operational technology environment. So basically what it's saying is CISA is going, man, we've put out all of this information, and they highlight the guide again here. It's on their site. Primary mitigations to reduce cyber threats to operational technology. It's a fact sheet, and basically goes through all of these little things that manufacturers can do to make sure that they're not getting hit. Now, right now, there's a big fear about infrastructure organizations. So we're looking at this case, we're looking at oil and gas processing plants. But again, it's little stuff. It's new technologies being hooked up to old technologies and not securing the connection. It's about being able to do remote monitoring and not looking at the fact that that's going through the internet. And maybe you didn't put a firewall in front of that. It's talking about bad login credentials. It's talking about maintaining admin credentials from when you just bought the new technology and plugged it in. So a lot of simple stuff, and hackers are smart. They're taking advantage of all these things to get in, hit you, ransomware you, stay in the system, and do it again in 6 months. So these are just, again, these aren't the big guys. These aren't the state-sponsored agencies or state-sponsored hackers that are doing this. It's a lot of lower-level hackers that are still finding ways to get into these unprotected OT systems. So just kind of a reminder, again, it's a lot of the little stuff that you can do from a cybersecurity perspective, and that's kind of what CISA is saying here. Then we got some experts that weigh in and also kind of give their thoughts on dealing with legacy technology and training employees, avoiding those phishing emails, all that kind of stuff.
I mean, when we're talking about an unprotected valve, sensor, or controller, how can plant managers, how can they, is there a way to just scan your entire factory to find all your vulnerabilities?
Well, it's not vulnerabilities. It's getting a list of all
entry points,
your assets.
Okay.
That's the very first thing that needs to be done. And it's something that manufacturing struggles with because there's so many of them. So many different things that are connected and accessible from the outside that we don't appreciate and don't realize because we're doing our jobs. We're making stuff. We're all putting product. In this case, we're processing oil and gas. We're energy. It's something that's pretty important, obviously. So those security is always constantly being overlooked because we're focused on throughput, output, efficiency, avoid downtime. Yeah. Security can take from all of those things. So it's hard. It's very difficult to implement. But the first step is always inventory. Yeah. See what you got.
But when you talk about assets, like, I think people think like capital equipment. I don't think you think a sensor, like
well, if you're doing it right, it's the sensor isn't what's vulnerable. It's how they get to the sensor.
Oh, okay.
So it's all those different endpoints on the network.
All right. Anna, did you have a chance to check out this article, and what were some of your thoughts on another warning on cybersecurity and manufacturing?
I mean, it's always good to be top of mind with this stuff. I think we can all appreciate the role that CISA plays in this, especially they're very accessible, like one sheet. Hey, here are some best practices that you can apply pretty easily. You don't need to pay us a consulting fee. You don't need to, you know what I mean? But that's so true because, CISA is an agency that is like also like many federal agencies facing massive budget cuts and like gutting of their staff. And this is the reality of the kind of work that they do is being accessible to smaller or mid-sized companies that maybe don't have the depth of IT resources, maybe don't know where to start, maybe don't have the extra funds to call somebody to help them do it, to give them just some of these basic guidelines like low-hanging fruit that maybe makes the difference between whether or not they have a breach.
Oh, yeah.
That's hugely important.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, before we get out of here, let's do our final thoughts for this week. Anna, what's your final thought this week?
I saw this week somebody online refer to the last month of this school year as Maycember. And the reason they call it that is because, in December, how you have all these extra things to do. Think about when you have kids in school, right? Like how many zillions of things are planned in May. Yeah. And so it's like everybody's spring concert and recitals and field trips and teacher appreciation week, which is this week, and all the things that kind of add up at the end of the year. And I was like, holy cow, yes, this is why I'm so stressed right now. And its name is Maycember.
It's Maycember.
So I'm sorry for that. I hate when two words are put together for no reason, but that's why that's being done. But anyway, everybody hang in there.
Yeah.
Teacher Appreciation Week this week. Just get it done. You'll feel better if you do. But
I know. We got to appreciate those teachers. I still need to buy some gift cards. I got another day.
You got one day.
I have one day. But I mean, you're right. And then there's that transitional phase into the what are they going to do all summer and making sure that they're cool with everything, getting them reacclimated. Nothing starts at a reasonable time.
The sun never goes down.
Yeah, the sun. Oh, my goodness. I'm still, my youngest is doing that fight right now. It's just like, it's not bedtime. The sun's still out. It's just like, come on, man. You want to learn everything else except when it comes to the sun goes down later. No, actually, my piggybacking off of that, my final thought was that on Friday, my son Des had a piano recital, his first ever after just starting to learn. And I have never been more proud. It was one of the most terrific things I've ever seen. And just keep up the good work. It was just incredible. Blew my mind. Jeff, what's your final thought?
I'm enjoying listening to you guys stress about all this stuff because I don't have to anymore.
Jeff doesn't recognize Maycember anymore.
No.
But I honestly, I appreciate you being on the other side because it's a helpful reminder that there is another side. Because, if it was just the two, us just running around a hornet's nest, every once in a while I can see you're calm. You're planning when you're going to go fishing. And I'm just like,
a lot.
One day, not close. But one day. Sorry. Are you going fishing? Is that your final thought?
No, my final thought is just how much I appreciate that I can go fishing now because I don't have to plan for all this stuff that you guys do. So, yeah. Good luck.
No, it's going to be beautiful out there. It's going to be.
Sure will.
We'll make it. Maybe I'll still be able to walk by then. No. I've got quite a few Maycembers in my future before I'm thinking about anything else.
Yep.
Before we get out of here, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You could also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach any of us at Jeff, David, or Anna at IEN.com. Email the podcast in the subject line. You could also subscribe to our daily newsletter. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first, and subscribe to us on YouTube at IEN Magazine so you can join us live every Thursday. For Jeff Reinke and Anna Wells, I'm David Manty. This is the Today in Manufacturing podcast, and we will see you next week.